and welcome to Champ Select, your go-to competitive Legends of Runeterra podcast. I'm Alex. As per usual, joining me are my two co-hosts, Noble.
Hello.
And Hugh.
Hello.
In this episode, we got quite a lot planned, so we're going to try to turbo through a few topics. We're going to be going over the most recent gauntlet that should be going on for this current weekend. We're recording Saturday morning. We're going to go into the very talked about Pack Your Bags nerf that just went live. We're going to talk about the new champion that was spoiled, Aphelios. And then we're going to go into some ladder anxiety, which is becoming an increasingly large part of competitive card gaming in general. And I think is probably under talked about in general. So I'm really excited to talk about that. As per usual, we'll be ending things off with some viewer questions. But I think let's just dive right into the gauntlet for this weekend, right? I know that me and Hugh played our gauntlet, right?
Yeah.
I think, it went like pretty medium for both of us, unfortunately.
Yeah, at least I know exactly why mine sucked.
It's because you picked three bad decks from three separate time periods.
No.
In Legends of Runeterra.
No.
You picked your favorite bad control deck from three separate metas, none of which are now.
Okay.
And then complained that your games take too long.
I never complained that my games take too long.
Okay.
I knew they would take forever. No. I had a reason I wanted to play Nivea Control, and it was just it eats every creature deck ever, and that's all people are playing right now. The bad thing about
it has a good scouts matchup
so far.
Okay. Probably.
Okay, we don't really have data on this because, like Alex said, this is an old deck that no one plays anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So to be clear here, you registered a Nivea Control, Deep, and Karma Control, right?
Yeah, Karma Control, the spooky Karma from forever ago that is just run and go hards and trying to go late with that.
These are literally the three big decks from three separate metas. Like this is just the most big over-the-top deck from three separate metas. None of them are now.
Yeah,
both of those statements are true. Yes.
Yeah, Legends of Runeterra is a little interesting too, because people will show up with like a Karma Ezreal deck or whatever that was like really big, like 10, 15 patches ago.
It's true, yeah.
And like it'll still be reasonable, because not that many cards come out at a time. And especially not for the regions that aren't being released. Like, in the Call of the Mountain, a ton of Targon cards came out, obviously. But, the amount of actual Noxus cards that came out is not that many. So, like, you can play a Noxus deck with, like, pretty small changes.
Yeah, it's true. I'm giving Hugh a hard time for no real reason, to be honest. Like, there's nothing wrong with submitting the three decks you like and three decks that you're familiar with. That's honestly a totally reasonable plan, especially since they all have, like, a pretty reasonable matchup chart. Like, there's no way you're banning out the deck that's going to go over you, right? No matter what's going on, he is going to go over you.
Karma Control is definitely just not very good.
Okay.
Just fair. By the way, like I knew that going in. I thought that going in because I haven't played the deck in obviously a long time. But yeah, I played like 2 games with it on ladder before I like locked it in the gauntlet, and I was just like, everything's relatively fast and just like plays things, and this deck does actually nothing.
All right, reasonable. Yeah.
So it does even more. Like at least a Nivea Control does nothing and heals, but this deck just does nothing. Like,
yeah,
so
that's why I put a health potion in that deck.
I got to 4 wins and then lost to 1 not picking my deck in time, so it auto picked for me, and then the next game I had just some bad variants and lost the game. So
yeah, I played Zoe Lee, the Scouts deck, and Draven Swain. And I mean, I basically just played 3 good decks that I've been playing a lot on ladder, essentially. I wanted to make sure that I played Scouts because I wanted to make sure that I had a deck that I was comfortable playing that I knew beat Lee Zoe. And then Lee Zoe is just the deck I'm the most comfortable with, so I've played that. And then I like the Draven Swain deck against basically all of the aggro piles or whatever. And assuming that Lee Zoe is going to get banned a lot because Lee Zoe is actually like quite good against most aggro decks nowadays. So I just wanted to have, kind of besides Scouts. So I just wanted to have a few decks that were reasonable against aggro. Ezreal Draven beats Scouts, which is another thing that I wanted to have. Scouts is the deck I saw the most. I watched a friend play his gauntlet with a very similar lineup, and there was like scouts in like 5 out of the 8 matches he played or whatever. And then I played against a comp that had scouts like at least 4 of the times as well. So like,
I know I personally didn't see a single player that hadn't registered scouts.
yeah, there was a lot of scouts. So
I banned it almost every time.
yeah, I think that my real takeaway from having played this gauntlet is less like what decks should you play necessarily, and more just like you're probably going to see scouts. Like scouts was the real only ubiquitous deck, I think.
Yeah.
So like prepare to beat scouts, I'd say, if you can
Beat it
show
or
up
ban
with,
it.
yeah, if you show up with 3 decks that can beat scouts, you know, you might be in a reasonable plan, but you know, obviously it's best of 1, so it doesn't always go that well. So
Yeah. It's worth noting that in these kind of gauntlets, we've talked a lot about really having a plan with your lineup, like lining up your matchup spreads, looking for something to attack. That is a lot less true in best of 1.
yeah,
Because so many of the strategies that work, it's a lot more coin flippy because you ban one of their decks and they're playing one of the other 2. You don't know that you're going to play against both of the other 2 and need to beat them. You kind of just need to have a decent matchup against the field and end up with 2 decks that have reasonable matchups against their decks, hopefully, and can ban the common bad matchup. It is still good to have decks that have a common bad matchup and just kind of ban that, but other than that,
yeah, for sure. So I think my one recommendation is either plan to ban scouts or plan to bring some at least 2 decks that are pretty good against it and have a reasonable matchup against the rest of the field. And if your plan for that is the mirror, then great, whatever.
yeah,
You know, that's totally reasonable too.
I'm planning on playing Fiora Shen, which I think is kind of a sleeper right now and quite good. I think I'm going to play Lee Zoe. And then my other deck, I'm kind of waffling between Feel the Rush, which is a comp that I saw some people posting about that they liked on Twitter, or the Swain Draven deck, which I've also been like.
Yeah, that deck slams scouts for anyone who's wondering. That deck eats scouts alive. It's not like you can't lose, but you've got Scorched Earths for Grand Plazas, and then you just have, you know, appropriately sized removal spells for their usually kind of smallish creatures.
I definitely forgot. Like, I was playing a ladder game against scouts, and then I just forgot that. I was like, I wish this was an Oxen Guillotine. This Scorched Earth doesn't do anything like staring down a Grand Plaza, and just forgot that it did that. But then it killed one of their creatures, and then they had no units in 2 Grand Plazas, and it worked out.
Yeah, sometimes it works out anyway. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Do we have anything else we want to add? I know that was a pretty brief touch on the gauntlet, but we do have quite a bit to talk about. So
I mean, I'm good with that.
Wonderful.
Personally.
All
Just,
right.
like, also, like, don't get too worried about it, and if you have time, just play it. It's
Yeah, if
like
you have time, play it. Yeah.
It's pretty free. It's good, kind of good practice for the tournament, at least in like putting together a lineup and thinking about what decks you're going to have to play against, and like getting an idea of what other people's lineups could look like.
Yeah, and the most common deck I still saw was just like 6 champion jank pile. So like,
I know,
especially early on. So like, just play it. You know, even if you aren't super confident with your list, you're pretty likely to just queue into, you know, 3 decks that you're like, what on earth is this? You know,
Yeah.
and you just play a good deck and you're usually gonna win.
a lot of people in these gauntlets like are just playing whatever they like our friend Hugh. And you know, that's not a bad thing, but it also means that if you like bring the 3 tier 1 decks or whatever, you're usually gonna have a good time. And you know, you can't win them all. In fact, only maximum 50% of people can prime glory, because you know the last game is you either win it or you lose it.
Yeah.
So give it a shot.
Yeah, it's good. All right, so moving on, I think that the biggest change to the game right now is this Pack Your Bags nerf. So for those of you who maybe missed it, they released a balanced patch Wednesday, this last Wednesday, that changed the Pack Your Bags cost from 1 to 5. They really, like, wow. That's a huge mana cost increase. I mean, there's no middle ground there. Like they just went straight to 5. That's crazy to me, to be honest. I was like not surprised to see a Pack Your Bags nerf, but I was like shocked that they increased a card by 4 mana.
Yeah, I was thinking like 3 would probably be reasonable. But I'm glad that they went a whole hog. I mean the deck is still seemed decent, and honestly at 3 mana might not have been enough, because that's still relatively easy to keep up at all times. I think this is actually, my gut shot was also like, wow, why did they do this? Do they want this card to not be playable at all? And I just thinking about it more and playing against it, Still feels absolutely playable. Shocked that the Riot Balance team knows what's up.
Yeah,
better than me.
I mean, like, so, like, for starters, I think that the reason they made it 5 was to make it so that you cannot cast Commander Ledros and pack your bags on the same turn. That's the logic that's in my head. That's like, why did it have to be 5? Well, it has to be 5 so that you can't Ledros in the same turn, I think.
It's also kind of clean. Like
it does 5 damage.
It is also.
It is a
costly.
1 mana spell.
That's
that does
why I thought they did
ones,
that. I wasn't
and
even.
then it's a 5 mana spell. That's
Yeah,
5,
I didn't even think about the Ledros thing until I saw everyone on the subreddit and everywhere talk about how that was probably the reason. I was like, yeah, that's a much better reason. That makes way more sense.
Yeah, it is also nice. Just like it just kind of looks clean. You know, it's 5 mana, deals 5 damage. Yeah,
exactly.
It just makes sense. It's still very much above rate, obviously. So like, I mean, when you look at like the Ruination or whatever, that's 9 mana for a largely similar effect that doesn't deal 5 to their Nexus, right?
And
It also kills your board.
yeah,
and also kills your board, right? So like it's still way above rate, and it's still a big payoff for the deck. But it's just like it's so much harder to actually get it now too, because Zap Sprayfin can't draw the pack your bags anymore, which is a big deal, I think, too. So it's like, not only is it going to happen less because there's just effectively less ways to find it, it's also going to be less impactful when it happens because it costs more mana, and you probably aren't going to ever die to, you know, Ledros pack, or you won't ever die to Ledros pack on your same turn, right? So it's nerfed in 3 significant ways that all hurt the deck's consistency, I think. The question is the deck consistent enough anyway that those things aren't going to matter that much? And that's kind of the question I want to pose to you guys. It's like, I think that this nerf really hurts Go Hard's consistency to be able to execute Plan A in every matchup. Is the deck still consistent enough to do it?
I think yes. I mean, look at how many cards they draw.
Yeah, they do draw a lot of cards.
They flip TF in like a turn and a half if they want to. They just like slam glimpse, salvage, pool shark, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, also they
that's
like
it.
you like if you want to flip TF, you like play him, blue card him, and then you like draw a card for that turn, the next turn, and then he's like, you know, you need to cast 2 of those spells. Or like,
yeah, if you have the TF champ spell, that's usually the culprit for flipping TF in that deck, I've found, in my opinion.
For like insta flipping them, you like they play that and you're like, okay.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, it's flipping this turn. Like, oh.
It needs to die this round. Otherwise, if he untaps next turn, he draws 7 cards and it flips.
Absolutely. I actually would argue that Pack Your Bags was perhaps it was the primary win condition. I don't even know if I would call it Plan A. Like, Plan A for that deck to me has always been you just like play a bunch of 2/2s, chip away at their draw cards, chip away at their life total, and then you will win the game with like they have like 3 different win conditions, I think. Like they have Ledros, they have Pack Your Bags, and they have TF. So like, you know, 2 of those are relatively unchanged. The Ledros one is worth without Pack. But Pack was pretty necessary for finishing a good amount of games. The times when they had like 3 mana and they went like Pack or with like go hard Pack felt like so bad.
Yeah, the turns where it's just like where they have like 4 mana and you just like play a thing and they're like, oh, they can't vengeance this, and then they're like, go hard Fortune Croaker, go hard, or go hard Fortune Croaker Pack or whatever with like 3 cards in hand, and you're like, oh, like that was so bad for me.
It's really funny because like looking at the card Go Hard now, like you introduce some of this game and they're like, that card looks pretty good. It might be busted, and you're like, yeah, let me tell you,
it was 1 mana.
1 mana.
Holy moly!
Like the nerf really brings like really just shows how nuts it was before. Like 1 mana for that effect was
clearly very, very good. I think that I mentioned in a chat somewhere, I was like, I don't think I have ever seen a card have its mana cost increased by 4 with no other
starting
changes.
At 1, or in general, maybe
just in general. Like
yeah.
I don't think I have ever seen a nerf to a card that is just like mana increase by 4,
which is funny because a lot of times
it's so much.
A mana increase will go up by 1 and people are like, great, now it's unplayable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right, like, you know, like if you make
Kindler, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Like it is insane to me, and it's not really that 1-to-1 ratio, because Pack Your Bags is like a huge payoff card that's way above rate, and it's a payoff card for doing another thing, right? It's not just a card you can put in your deck. But like 4 mana is so, I like, my initial reaction was, this is like the biggest nerf that a card game has ever done. Like just straight, like just like increase the mana by 4 is absurd.
Yeah.
Like that
and
does not happen. That is unheard of.
It's definitely the biggest numbers nerf I
Yeah.
think that has ever happened in a card game.
Yeah.
Just straight numbers. I don't.
Crazy, which is like, which kind of makes you question, like, was this like the best thing that had existed in a card game, because it needed to be nerfed by that much, and we're still talking about it being okay? Like,
The win rate of the deck wouldn't suggest that it was too
Exactly,
good. Like it
exactly,
It was,
like
like
it-
it was fine, but maybe it was only fine because so many people were playing it, and then the deck that beat it, and then a couple other decks that were like fine against it.
yeah, you know, maybe like it didn't feel so oppressive to need that big of a nerf, to me at least.
Yeah, not to me either, but
Which is why
we'll see where it goes.
which is why I was surprised to see it nerfed by that much. Mostly, I think it's fine, honestly. Like I do think that a nerf was in order, and I'm glad it happened. And you know, honestly, if they make it 5 and it ends up being not good enough, and then they bump it down later or whatever, because it turns out like the deck just does need to be able to cast Ledger's Pack to win, and it, you know, if you spend 13 mana on that or whatever, because the thing costs 4 mana, then like, sure, you know, that's fine, right? Like, you can cast Feel the Rush for 12 and win the game. Why can't I cast Ledger's and Pack Your Bags for
yeah, and I
12
think
and win the game?
maybe I feel like part of the reason the win rate wasn't as high as it could have been is because the deck is actually incredibly hard to pilot, and a bunch of people probably just tried to be like, well, Go Hard's broken, right? Because everyone says it's broken, and they just like jammed it into ladder, and they just started losing games because they weren't playing well.
Yeah, it is really hard.
It's really difficult, and it's just, you know, maybe with the player going down, the win rate will just like go way up. Weirdly enough, we could see that happen,
Yeah,
because we
definitely could see that happen, especially because people are gonna like be like, oh, Go Hard's dead, I'll play my deck that's bad against Go Hard or whatever. And then,
yeah, that too.
you know, if people just queue into it with, you know, a bunch of 1 toughness things, and you just get to eat them all with the front half of Go Hard, then who cares about the Pack Your Bag nerf?
It'll
You
be-
know?
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what the data says in like a week or two.
Yeah, I'm curious for sure. All right, does anybody have anything else to add, or are we good to move on to Aphelios?
I'm good with that.
All right.
Yeah, same.
So, Noble Kid, you have Aphelios pulled up, right?
Yes.
Do you want to read that bad boy for us here?
Yeah, real quick. So he is a 3-cost 3/3. He's from Targon. He has Nightfall. Pick a moon weapon to create in hand. When you've played 2 other cards in a round, create the phased moon weapon in hand if you don't already have one. And the level up is you've cast 4+ moon weapons. So there's a lot of words there that you're not going to understand until we read the next part, but try to stay with us. And then he transforms into a 4/4 with quick attack, the same Nightfall, pick a moon weapon, and then round start. And when you've played 2 other cards in a round, create the phased moon weapon in hand if you don't already have one. Your moon weapons cost 1 less.
Cool. And then the moon weapons are a bunch of effects. Go,
so they're
rapid fire them off.
They are all 2-cost slow spells. Calibrum deals 3 damage to target follower, and then phases Severum or Gravitum. So that means if the first one you create is Calibrum, you then basically put one of the other 2 on deck, choose which it is, and then the next time you would create one, you create that one. I'm actually not sure if it carryovers for, like, you play an Aphelios, you get Calibrum, you play it, you phase Severum, then your Aphelios dies. I don't know if your next Aphelios gets Severum or not. I would guess not, because when he comes in, you choose between all 5 of them, and they wouldn't want to restrict you like that, but I'm not sure. So then Severum gives an ally +1/+2 in lifesteal this round, phasing Gravitum or Infernum. Gravitum says stuns an enemy. If it's a follower, stun it again at the next round start, which is pretty cool. That's an effect they haven't done before. And phases Infernum or Crescendum. Infernum gives an ally +2/+1 and overwhelm this round. Phase Crescendum or Calibrum. And then Crescendum summons a 2-cost follower from your deck. If it has Nightfall, activate it. Phase Calibrum or Severum.
Whew. All right. It's a lot of text, so let's boil that down to
It's just I think we should just boil it down to like let's not worry about what phase is what. Like let's not worry about sequencing.
Yeah, for sure.
Each effect, from what I could see, each effect sounded good. Very solid.
Good, yeah.
Like, especially 2 mana, even though it's slow, 2 mana.
Yeah, they're pretty good. So I think that for starters, it's a 3 mana 3/3, which is
just fine.
A little underwhelming for a champion. I think that's a little bit below rate, right? Usually on a 3 mana champion, I'm gonna want more stats than 3/3, right? I mean, Bull Elnuck's like a 4 mana 4/5, so like.
Well, yeah, I mean, Riven's a 3/4. Draven has quick attack. Like
exactly,
this is below rate.
Yeah,
sure.
this is below rate as far as body wise, and you have to activate Nightfall to get the weapon that he comes with, right? So like, it's hard to do that on turn 3. Nearly impossible.
I will note that you can very reasonably. Oh wait, damn, it doesn't quite work.
Doesn't work.
I was gonna say could very reasonably play him on turn 2, but there's just not quite enough mana because the
Dusk Petal person
doesn't
quite
makes,
work.
yeah, but you can't play like actual Dusk Petal.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that the real way that you would be triggering it on turn 3 is the Lunari Dusk Petal or the Lunari Duskbringer, right? That gives you the petal. And if you don't have that, like you're probably not gonna be nightfalling this on turn 3. Maybe you could do it with like Stalking Shadows into Aphelios on turn 3 if you don't do anything on turn 2, which is a reasonably common play pattern out of the Nightfall decks.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible, but realistically, you're probably going to play it on turn 4 or 5, right? Most of the time. And it's a 3/3. So the question is like, I think that the body is like not good enough and not that relevant. The question is like, is this chain of utility and versatility good enough to warrant it, right? So like, my immediate thought is he in itself is a good payoff for Nightfall and is a good Nightfall enabler because he's going to essentially draw you a card at the start of each of your turns that are just good to cast. They're cheap, they're 2 mana.
Well, when you've played 2 cards in a round, you mean?
Well, yeah, but then they each like are phasing ones, right? So like, so they're going to draw you card, like by activating Nightfall, you're going to get this card that's put into your hand that you can then use to activate Nightfall more easily the next turn, right? So like, it's kind of a self-fulfilling thing, like because you already have this 2 mana slow spell that's just good and you can just cast or whatever, right? Like it's going to be much easier to cast 2 cards in any given turn, which gives you your next one, which allows you to keep doing it, right? And because you can do that, it also is going to help you trigger your Nightfall effects, you know?
Yep.
So like, that engine loop seems pretty good to me, but I'm not sold that it's good enough. I mean, there's a lot of versatility here, and there's a lot of power in the spells, I think. And the flip side of Aphelios is really good, I think. 4/4 with quick attack is a really big body, a great threat. Making all your things 1 mana seems insane. You get like 2 things a turn. Like I think that a flipped Aphelios is going to be
definitely real.
is going to be really very much game winning.
You've cast 4 moon weapons is a lot.
Yeah, that's 4 turns at least.
And 8 mana.
Yeah.
So, you have to. It's not necessarily 4 turns.
Well, I was going to say, we don't know what his accompanying cards will be. Right?
That's true.
Correct. But you can also, play Aphelios on turn. You play you're playing an actual 0-cost card in your deck. So you play that 0-cost card with 3 spell mana on turn 3. You play Aphelios, and then you can play a moon weapon. And then if you play a 1-drop, you will get another moon weapon the turn you play him. So he creates the moon weapon. So you need 0-cost card, 1-cost card, Aphelios, which is still a lot, but it is a reason. Like, basically, my point is that if on the turn that you play him, he creates a moon weapon, and if you have you can play that moon weapon and another spell, you are going to get another moon weapon immediately.
Yeah, absolutely,
which starts the chain.
Yeah, I think that the one that intrigues me the most is Crescendum, the one that summons a 2-cost follower from your deck with Nightfall, and then can trigger Nightfall.
Yeah,
I think that if Aphelios' card package has a good 2 mana Nightfall creature, I think I might be in.
It definitely should.
It should, I think, right? Seeing that, but it needs to be good.
The floor right now is the 2/3 elusive, which is pretty good.
Yeah, which is fine. Yeah, which is a totally fine card. It's pretty good, but I want a good one. If his 2 mana one comes along and it's whatever, I'm probably that one is probably just never gonna get picked, and that's a big downside that I can't pick the one that's really good against aggro, right? Because Calibrum's good against aggro. It's the one that shoots 3 damage.
Yeah.
The stun one's good against aggro. The
How are you remembering
lifesteal one?
Is this because you've played the champion in League of Legends?
Yeah, I've played a lot.
Weapons.
Yeah, I've played a lot of the champion leagues, so I remember the names. Severum's good against aggro. Like the card is just generally good against aggressive decks. And Gravitum has a little bit of additional utility against the bigger ones where you can stun big stuff.
Yeah.
Like Radiant Guardian or whatever. Getting to like double stun a Radiant Guardian seems like really important.
Nice, yeah.
So like he could give the deck the tools that it needs to have a potentially longer, grindier game. I'm not certain that's what the deck needs, but like I think that it is powerful in its versatility. I'm just not sure that its body is good enough to warrant its versatility.
So
basically,
I think this is one of those champions that you should view more like Draven than you view like Heimerdinger is the example that I'm going to use, I think. In that Draven creates value, he's a good play on curve, but if your opponent attacks you with a 4/3, just trade him. He got you your value. Like, don't be taking a bunch of damage in order to hopefully level him up or keep him around. And especially because he doesn't have to see all the moon weapons played. So like if the first one makes a moon weapon, you play like a follower that makes a moon weapon or whatever. There's already been one card spoiled, like just in the Aphelios announcement. It doesn't actually show the card. It's kind of weird, but it says, I guess it does. It says gifts from beyond 2-cost burst spell. Choose a moon weapon to create in hand.
Aphelios doesn't have to see all 4?
No, it just says
that's
when
a
you've
big deal.
So like
I
the
see.
second one can be the
Okay.
one that you level, right? You can play the first one, you can get the bolt, you can bolt something, you can deal 3 damage to something, you can
That makes it completely different.
That's way better.
Yeah.
I thought that he had to see all 4.
No.
I'm like way more in now because like the second one's probably gonna flip.
Yeah. The
Just
first
in-
one you should treat as a 3-mana 3/3 that creates a good card in hand, and then the second one you should probably try to protect and flip, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
in general, it seems like the most playable champions have sort of always been, for the most part, the champions that can level up from deck.
Yeah, usually.
Swain, Ezreal,
Yep.
Lee Sin
Yep.
is a big example. I mean, to be fair, there's also like Twisted Fate and Elise that are Twisted Fate and Elise that are really powerful, but then again,
I mean,
Those champs don't really flip that much either. So
yeah, exactly.
I think that what I'm gonna take the somewhat odd take. When I came in today, having read Aphelios, my opinion was that I was not that excited about it, and that I was like, I thought that it wouldn't be that good because it was a 3-mana 3/3, and you weren't going to be able to activate Nightfall on turn 3 very consistently. But now, the more I think about it, the more I think that I don't really want this card in my Nightfall aggro deck. But I do think that I want this card in my like Nightfall midrange deck, which maybe this will become an archetype now. So I think that this card is not really gonna see, like, I don't think it'll replace Diana or Nocturne in that deck, in like a very
Absolutely.
aggressively slanted Nightfall deck. But I do think that there's like Diana Nocturne decks that are like trying to play the Invoke package right now, right? That are trying to go bigger, and I would much rather have Aphelios in that deck than Nocturne probably, or Diana really. So like, I think this card will see play. I don't think it's going to be like an all-star meta definer quite. I don't think it's as good as Twisted Fate or whatever, but like, I think this card will see play.
I think that, first reading it, I read that first weapon and I was like, 3 damage to a follower. That card's great, and it definitely gets worse from there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because that card is like old Black Spirit, which got nerfed.
Yeah, the 3 damage to a follower is just
For
really
3
good.
minutes.
I
For 3
mean,
minutes.
to a follower, like, yeah, it's still good, but like,
Oh, that's fair.
that's a very, very big
difference
difference between 3 damage to a unit and 3 damage to a follower.
Absolutely.
That's one of those wording changes in this game where you say it out that loud, and then you're like, and then someone's like, it's to a follower, and you're like, oh,
Oh yeah. Can't
but
kill.
it is still good. The stun card, for example, is really good against something like the Grand Plaza. Yeah.
Severum is going to be really good against the Lifesteal one. Is going to be really good against a lot of the aggro decks.
The Overwhelm one is the one that looked least
The
impressive.
Overwhelm
to me.
one's the worst one for sure. I think. Yeah, I think that Infernum is the worst one for sure. But yeah, it gives a nice stat boost, nice bump.
Should I check? Is there a chain that doesn't include Infernum? There almost certainly is, right?
No. What do you? There's all of the
Like,
all
I think
of the
there are
chains-
3 card loops that you can go through. Like, there are 3 weapon loops that you can go through and never make the other 2. I would need to do some like charting.
Oh,
to figure it out.
probably. Yeah,
But-
I'm not certain
Yeah,
about.
I
that.
believe you can do the 3 damage one, Calibrum into Gravitum, which is the stun one,
correct.
into the Nightfall one,
Into
and
Crescendum,
I believe
back
that
into
goes back
Calibrum.
into
Yeah,
Calibrum.
absolutely. Yeah.
I honestly kind of think the stun one's going to end up being the best,
The stun one's really good.
like, because it also hits champions. And I
Yeah.
think that's just such a huge relevant detail.
Yeah, maybe we're gonna be Gravitum
if
and
it's a follower.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
stuns
stuns-
twice if it's a follower, but and stunning once as a champion's plenty.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
you can play it with Ravenous Flock. I
Lee
mean,
Sin.
I don't know. Maybe there's an Aphelios Noxus deck or whatever. I'm not sold, but yeah, maybe it could happen.
This is one of
Imagine
those
putting
cards.
trample on your flipped Swain. Okay, never mind. I'm
yes.
in. Let's go, baby.
Let's go.
This is one of those cards that's just going to be like, even if it's bad, it's going to be so much fun to brew with.
It's gonna be super sweet.
So,
even if it's
like,
bad. Yeah,
it
it's kind
doesn't-
of like Victor. Yeah,
It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be fun.
I agree. All right. I'm excited for that champion. That champion is coming out February 3rd, right? I believe was the date we were cited.
So I have some dates just to keep everybody updated. So the expansion drops February 3rd. As far as we know, the
Seasonal tournament.
Seasonal tournament is the end of February. So Aphelios will be legal for the seasonal tournament, likely.
presumably. Yeah.
And then Shurima expansion is coming March 3rd.
Cool. So just straight up a month away from each other.
Which kind of makes sense because March 3rd is going to be a couple days after the back half of the seasonal tournament. So
Yeah. So presumably the front half will be like in the middle of February.
Yeah.
Ish. So like, I don't think we couldn't find an exact date, but around the middle to the latter half of February is going to be the end of the ranked season. Aphelios will be out by then.
Yeah.
So let's move on to, I think, the thing we want to talk about the most this episode, and that's ladder anxiety. So ladder anxiety is becoming a more and more commonplace thing for competitive card game players, especially in this like digital, COVID era where you can't go and it's very normal to have tournament nerves, right? Like as Magic players, I think we're all pretty accustomed to sitting down for an important match to make top 8 or whatever, and like everybody feels nervous there, but there's no option to just not go sit down and play it, right? But like with a ladder and with laddering, right, as an online form, and especially as a way to qualify for tournaments, the feeling of like, what if I lose, oftentimes prevents you from actually playing in the first place. And that's really, that's ladder anxiety in a nutshell, is the fear of not wanting to lose, preventing you from playing the games.
Yeah.
And we've all had to deal, I think every card game player has to deal with it in some form or another, very frequently. And everyone has to overcome it. It affects different people in different ways to different severity, just like normal anxiety does. Do you guys have a lot of experience with it? Are you guys people that experience it a lot, or
So much. I mean, I have been. So I used to play like a lot of StarCraft. I was like a high diamond, low masters player of StarCraft, and I think it was much more prevalent there than this game, personally, because games were shorter and you were doing like a million things at once.
StarCraft games are shorter than Legends of Runeterra games.
They're like 7 minutes long.
Oh wow, I know nothing about StarCraft.
They're like 7 to 12 minutes long. Anyway, there's so much going on that like you can easily make one small mistake and then you just lose the game, and you can lose. If you're on a huge win streak, you can be gaining like 2 LP a win and losing 25 LP a loss. Like it's absurd.
What? My God.
That's the most extreme of examples,
Yeah,
but like
but still.
usually it's closer to like you lose 14 and you gain 12.
Yeah.
Which is still not great by any means, but like in this game, ladder anxiety is definitely less intense for me, but it still certainly exists. Like it gets more intense the closer we get to the seasonal tournament. Like when I got to Masters and it was like the night before the tournament, it's really hard to just like, and you're like 89 LP and you're like, I just need one more win
yeah,
to
it's
hit
rough.
top 700. And you just like don't want to click play again. You're just like, I'm technically at like 687. Like I can
Maybe it'll hold.
Maybe it'll
Yeah.
hold, and it just won't. You have to play again, and then like you lose, and you're like, oh man, okay.
I have to win
now
twice, 3
Yep.
times. Yeah.
Yep, and then you lose one more time. You're like, well, now I have to win like 4 games in a row, and you just bounce back and forth, and it's just it's hard to keep playing sometimes. But I don't know. The most important thing that I've always remembered is that like if you want to get somewhere, you just have to keep playing.
Yeah,
you absolutely have to.
How about you, Noble?
So ladder anxiety, I think, is something that I experience less in card games than ladder burnout. Like just the massive amount of games that you have to play. Like this manifest, I talked about this last season when I was just like stuck in like literally plat 3 for actually 100 games. Like I wasn't anxious about playing more games, but I felt very defeated and just like, well, I really want to get to Masters this season and I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And that, it did make me not want to play the game, not because I was anxious about losing, because I had like an actual 50-50 win rate over like 100 games, but just because I was so burnt out on just like, I will win streak, I'll get up to, almost plat 2, plat 1, and then I'll fall back down. And it was just like kind of exhausting, which made me not want to play the game. The real place that ladder anxiety has hit me in the past is League of Legends. I'm not very good at League of Legends. I would just like to say this is ladder anxiety of like trying to climb, like, hand over hand, kicking and streaming out of bronze. I was having fun playing League of Legends, and then I made the mistake of accepting a bet from our friend group
this
over
is a
dinner.
very different
It's
bet.
not really a bet.
There's nothing at stake for Noble.
But they were both Alex and my other friend were both like, I will give you, and I was just starting out playing League of Legends, bad. And they were like, I will give you $1,000 if you make it to platinum in a year. And I was like, yes. And then Alex doubled down. He's like, me too. And I was like, let's go. And then I would just, games of League of Legends are a much higher like time and emotional investment because there's just 4 other people on your team who are like have decided to like flame you or whatever, and then there's a bunch of people on the enemy team, and trying to like actually caring about climbing. Like I was having fun just like doing whatever and not caring that I was pretty bad, and then I was like, oh my god, there's money on the line, like I actually want to try to get better, and it made all of the like random internet lags that like ruin an entire 45 minutes because you like go down 0-2 in lane or whatever. Just way worse. I've experienced a little bit in this card game. I was definitely having it before the last seasonal tournament when I was trying to climb, and then I like luckily like popped off and just won 5 in a row and didn't have to worry about it anymore. But like before that, I was like, the slog is so annoying, and like you really need to win you really need to just win like 5 in a row, and then you'll get there. Because if you're doing this win-losing thing in Masters, you're gonna lose LP and end up at 0 again, and so you really have to have a positive win rate. So that's really where it hits me is in Masters.
So for me, I experience ladder anxiety in like waves, and I deal with it in a very different way than I experience it in a different way than I hear about talked very, very much. And that's that in the moment, I very rarely feel anxious about actually clicking play. Like I very rarely, once I like open the game and I'm like, click my deck and I click play. Like I have very little actual anxiety about playing the game. But for me, it comes in the form of just like, I just tend to choose to do other things when I'm at a potential breakpoint. So like if I'm plat 4, I'm just gonna play. Like I'm just like, I want to play some Legends of Runeterra. Hop on, click play, and I can play all day. Right. As soon as I'm like plat 1, or like really very recently that I really experienced, I even noticed it, especially because someone on our Discord brought up ladder anxiety, and this is what made me really like notice it. Is like I was platinum. It took me like 5 days to get from platinum to diamond 1, right? And that's like, and I played quite a bit, obviously, and I obviously like had some really lucky streaks in there or whatever, but like I just played a lot, and then like once I was diamond 1, like I just like would go from playing 15 games a day and I'd play like 3 games a day or whatever, and it wasn't because I was enjoying the game less. It wasn't because I just didn't want to play because I was burnt out or whatever. It was just like every time I thought like I should play some Legends of Runeterra, ooh, this YouTube video, I'll click on it, right? Like, and you just go down that rabbit hole for like 3 hours, and then it ends up at 11 p.m. and you're like, I gotta go to bed, I have work in the morning, right? Yeah. And I just like found myself ending up like I just would innately choose to do things that were not play once the stakes became high enough that like I would feel bad about losing.
Yeah,
and
because you want to do things in your free time that like make you feel good that you're enjoying. And so like when there's the fear of like, oh, this could suck.
And
and this loss actually feels really bad.
The entire time, you know, I'm sitting there like, I really want to make Masters. Like I need to do it or whatever. And it took me like a week to climb from Diamond 1 to Masters. And it took me like a week to climb from like Gold to Diamond 1. Right? Like, you know, like, and that's, I didn't really, I definitely had a lower win rate in Diamond 1 or whatever than I did, but I never dropped out of Diamond 1. Like I was in Diamond 1 the whole time. Right?
Oh wow, that's actually pretty impressive.
I never dropped down.
Didn't you face the final boss
D2?
like 6 times?
Yeah, it took me 6 tries to win at D180 LP. Unfortunately, but
that's what he means by final boss, by the way, is Diamond 1 80 LP.
That's the final boss.
Yeah, the win to get
in.
into Masters.
It's the win and in. So I experience it in that form. I think like I don't really feel anxious about playing the games once I've decided to play them. I just find myself choosing to do other things instead of playing the games. And the way that I've sort of like internalized how to deal with ladder anxiety personally is that like if I ever at the end of a game think to myself, wow, I punted that game. Like I played bad that game, right? Usually the thing in the back of your head is telling you like, well, I'll just play one more, get that back, right? And I think that dealing with ladder anxiety is like fighting the urges that you know are wrong in the back of your head for me. So like I have really strong urges to, I lost a game, play another one, get it back, right? And every single time I have that like urge in the back of my head, I have to like consciously think and overpower it like, no, it's fine. I'll go get some water. I'll go to bed. I'll do it in the morning, right? Like I know I played bad that game. I'm going to be tilted, especially because personally, I don't really get tilted very often, or at least it doesn't affect my mental state in like an emotional way very frequently, but I just get tilted and then I make worse decisions but like it doesn't feel emotional in the time, right? So like it's very hard for me to acknowledge when I'm tilted because I'm never going to get really mad at something that's never really happened.
You don't get the really irrational like,
this guy freaking top decked on me, right? Like I'm never going to be like that. I'm going to be like, man, he got there, good game, right? And then the next game I'll just like play bad or whatever. Like I'll just miss something, I'll play worse, right? And it's hard for me to notice that I'm tilted because I don't really have the emotions that go along with it a lot of the time. So I need to have that like conscious overpower of the like voice in the back of my head basically that's like, no, hold on, like you just lost 3 in a row, you played bad in twice of them and you got top decked on the third one, like you're just probably not going to play good in the 4th game, right? You know, it's probably just not going to happen. And
so actually hearing you describe ladder anxiety like that made me realize that I do that too. I'm also just a person who's very distractible. I have I have ADHD. Like it is manifests in many things in my life, from like trying to do homework to, you know,
playing
work,
Legends of Runeterra
to, you know, doing things as simple as like, you know, trying to like make a like haircut appointment, which I haven't done for like 3 weeks. Both my co-hosts are laughing because my hair is very long and very unkept right now. And so just getting distracted and doing other things and just like, you know, it's like, oh, I just won't, you know. And then, you know, it kind of happened this week. I just like haven't really played Legends of Runeterra.
You just kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm not particularly anxious in this case, but it is what leads me to needing to grind to Masters in a week at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Because I just haven't put the number of games in. I consider myself as someone who has a very good mental game as far as card games go. Just in general, I think that I'm pretty good at, you know, rolling with bad beats. I'm pretty good at rallying.
I would agree with all of these things.
On the other hand, like that takes a lot of work, and there's definitely always still things that you can improve on. Like, you know, for example, we play a lot of Magic the Gathering. Me and Alex, especially, you know, not to exclude but we've traveled to a ton of tournaments together, like flew to GPs and stuff, and like tried to do well in the Pro Tour. And you know, there is the mental that goes along with that, which is what I consider like trying to really hone your mental game. But then there's the much simpler mental that I am honestly, like, no offense to anyone, but just shocked at how bad some people are at it. And it just feels like a really unhealthy mindset towards the game. And I just want to be clear. We might be dancing around a little bit. Like, mental game is very, very important in card games.
Absolutely.
Online games, video games of all times, like keeping your cool, not getting tilted, not making irrational plays because you're mad, because you got top decked last time, so you want to make sure it doesn't happen. Like finding the correct line.
When you
and
think to yourself against Tom Rocca, they just can't have it again and then play the spell. If that's your reasoning, like you probably tilted, right? Like if at any point in the game, in the last game, you think to yourself, there's no way they can have it again, you probably shouldn't play again, right? Like, because like if you were thinking like normally, that you wouldn't think like that. You would think, are they likely to have it? What have they played like the last 2 or 3 turns, right?
How
Any
have they
cards
been playing?
How have they been playing? How
Do they
many
leave up
cards
mana?
have they drawn? Do they have like, and there's the very obvious like, oh, they don't have enough mana, jam, right? They can't have it. But like if you're just like, there's no way they can have the second to deny, and you just jam, right? Like, you should put more thought into it.
There's no
that.
reasoning there.
Yeah, there's no reasoning. That's a purely emotional decision, and emotions are innately tied to humans, right? It's impossible to separate emotions from your mind, right? So like making decisions without emotions is incredibly hard and requires a lot of time and practice to end up doing well, especially consistently, especially in games that you can't control every aspect of.
And you don't need to be a robot. You don't need to like sit down and play a game like a computer would, but you should be thinking logically.
Yeah, and you should, and this all comes down to ladder anxiety manifests itself. In my experience, I should preface this with, I'm not a psychologist. I've never studied psychology. I don't really, I don't have a doctorate in the subject. I'm not an expert, but I have played a lot of card games.
We're not trying to help you get over anxiety. We're talking about a card game.
We're talking about card games. Yeah. And like, I have played a lot of card games. I have played a lot of online card games. I have climbed to, Masters equivalent in the Magic the Gathering arena. I've been #1 in Hearthstone before, right? Like I'm Masters in this game right now. I've played a lot of online card games. What it comes down to for me is that you shouldn't expect yourself to be able to function with no emotions. You should train yourself to recognize when you are functioning with emotions. And when you are functioning with emotions, you should understand that you're just not going to be playing that great. Humans don't play perfect all the time. You can't expect yourself to win every game. You can't expect yourself to have a perfect game every game, right? Like, even if you played perfect every game, you wouldn't win every game. So when you click play, you have to already know that you could lose. And if the prospect of losing is so terrifying that you can't click play, then don't, because you aren't going to play well. Yeah. And it sucks because you do need to play enough games to win, right? Like you have to probably play 1,000 games to hit Masters, no matter who you are, right? Like at least, And that was quick math, but like maybe it's less.
It's probably less. I think it's actually probably less, but
okay, it's probably less, but
it's still
it's
more
a lot.
than 100.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Hugh, did you have something to say?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna wait until you two were done. You two both have. I agree when you both said you have very strong mental states and are like very resilient psychologically, and I completely agree with that. I, on the other hand.
Not so much.
My mental is functionally non-existent. So I will frequently, no matter, and this has been true forever, laddering on every game I've ever played. So there'll be days where I'm just having a terrible day. I'll be like, I need to unwind, and then I play like League. Like
I need to unwind. He was into a League ranked game with 9 people you've never met.
Time to play some Amumu in bronze. This will untilt me.
Ironically, League of Legends is actually the least tilting game I play currently. Like it's.
Well, I actually think that I can associate this a little bit. So innately, I think that disassociating how much you care about the game with your rank or whatever, like if you care a lot about your rank in the game for whatever reason, and you'll be a little bit more into that, right? Like you're going to be a lot more anxious, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of people in games in general tend to associate their like self-worth or their knowledge with their rank in the game, right? So like there's a lot of people that say, I'm in plat, so take this with a grain of salt, comma, or whatever. And those mindsets are like pretty unhealthy it's not, you should never associate your self-worth, even in a community that's focused around the game, but especially, you know, like outside of it, just in friend groups or whatever, with your rank in the game. It is hard to climb, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with still needing to learn parts of the game, or just having not played enough of the game. You know, like, you have to devote a lot of time to hit masters, no matter who you are. If you're the best player in the world, you have to spend a lot of time. And if you just don't have the time for any reason, or you even just don't want to,
it's a card game. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. And don't feel shame about being in platinum.
It shouldn't feel like a job, right? Like,
don't make it work.
If you're stuck in platinum,
well, make it work, but don't make it feel like work.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. If you're stuck in platinum, that's not a reason why, you know, your opinion is innately devalued, right? There are great players in platinum. Absolutely. There are world-class players who are still in platinum. Yeah, Noble's still in platinum, right? Like, you know, there are world-class players who are still in platinum just because they just haven't gotten out yet, right? Like, you know, there are people who are future world-class players who just are still in platinum and are still building the fundamentals of the game, right? Like, you really need to disassociate. Yeah, you really need to disassociate your own self-worth and your own, like, view on yourself with your rank, because other people aren't, you know, like,
no one cares.
Yeah, you know,
I'm sorry, but no one cares if you're platinum.
Exactly,
or
right?
Like,
you know, if you come up to me and you're like, I have this really cool deck. Here's this deck. I think it's really good. I'm not going to be like, what rank are you? This pile looks awful, right? Like, you know, I might tell you that your pile looks awful, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to ask what rank you are before then, right? Like, I don't care.
We're not going to do it because you're gold.
Yeah, everybody.
We're going to do it because your deck looks bad.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I promise to judge your deck based solely on the merit of your awful deck, and I will not judge you as a person. And a lot of people associate them as a person with their play in a game. And you cannot associate you as a person with your play in a game that you can't control all the aspects to. Even in chess, you still can't do that, right? Like, where you can control all the aspects.
They made a whole TV show about mental in chess.
Exactly.
It's really good. It's called The Queen's Gambit. You should watch it.
It is actually a really good psychology. Like, it actually does have a lot of psychology for competitors that's probably applicable to Legends of Runeterra. That is certainly applicable to Legends of Runeterra as a side note. But, like, you need to disassociate your self-worth from your rank in a game. And that is step one to dealing with ladder anxiety, in my opinion. You have to be okay with losing in order to be able to improve. And you have to know when you're going to be making emotional plays, and you have to be willing to not play them.
Yeah, and a biggest part of mental for me too is something that I'm just kind of realizing. Honestly, by the way, when we started talking about this conversation, I was like, ladder anxiety, we're going to talk about that for like 15 minutes. And now I'm like, okay, we should have a whole nother episode about like
big concept,
pressure, like pressure point matches, like, you know, when you need to win a specific match, specifically like tournaments, you know, late in a gauntlet, even as something as like trying to 7-win an expedition,
Diamond 1 ADLP.
Yeah, exactly.
For
which is different than ladder anxiety, and I would love to also talk about that because I think mental does not get talked about enough in card games. Oh gosh, now I lost my train of thought on what I was talking about before.
Pressure points.
Someone save me for a second.
ADLP. Yeah. So I think that ladder anxiety manifests itself in a lot of different ways, and the key to dealing with it as a person is to understand how you experience it. If you're somebody that thinks you don't experience it at all,
you experience it.
You're probably wrong.
Yeah,
you probably do, and you're probably just not recognizing the forms that it's manifesting in, which particularly was exactly me. I thought that I didn't ever have it because I never experienced it in game, but I have it out of game.
Yeah,
which is, I think, different than a lot of players who feel anxious while they're playing the game. I don't know, Hugh, you're smirking right now. You look like maybe you're the other camp, right?
So,
we'll get to me in a second.
Right,
Noble's got his.
So I got my train of thought back. A way that this manifests, and I think it's really important to talk about specific ways that you can have and I'm just like a toxic mental where your mental attitude about the game is not helping you. It's when you start to lose and then you just kind of turn your brain off and you're like, whatever, I'm losing this game.
Autopilot
like, that
is rough.
sucks. I got outdrewn. Oh, this deck's so broken. Da-da-da-da-da. Instead of being like, okay, like, where can I play well? Is there an opportunity to salvage that game? Because some of those games are absolutely salvageable. Some of those matchups, like, people get into a bad matchup even and are like, oh, well,
I already can't win.
You didn't do it on a ladder, you know, might as well scoop or whatever. And like, the best matchups are like 70-30 probably, and 30% of the time is
it's a lot of equity.
Yeah, that's a good amount of equity that you shouldn't give away.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's good to know how to play your bad matchups. Like, you're going to play against that matchup again. Like, you are going to learn things about your deck and about your opponent's deck. And if you're like, wow, their deck looks really good, it might be a good time to switch to that deck. It also might just be a good part of understanding how to beat it. Like, a big part of mental is just always be thinking about, like, one, how can I win this game? And two, like, what can I learn from this game, even if I don't win it?
Yeah, I think that if at the end of the game, a really good example, or I'm struggling to come up with the right word, but a good cue for me to know that if I'm tilted or not is at the end of a game, if I can think to myself, what did I learn from this game, or where did I make a mistake? If I can come up with an answer very quickly, if I can be like, oh yeah, like turn 3, I definitely should have just passed instead of attacking for 3 points to waste my opponent's mana. Boom, right there. Like, that's an immediate thing that I had like noticed I did wrong or whatever. I can notice that in every Legends of Runeterra game I play, except when I'm tilted. and if I get to the end of the game and I'm just like, ugh, and then click play again, I'm like, I didn't even think about that game at all. Like that's how I can tell I was autopiloting for a lot of the games, because like I can't even tell you what happened on the first 4 turns of the game. All I remember is, you know, the last half where they just slammed unbeatable threat after unbeatable threat after unbeatable threat, and I was like, I could beat the third one, and then Aurelion Soul. It's like, god damn it! Like,
and it really
how do they have it all, right?
It really helps to play with other people too, like just like in a Discord call.
That's
like,
one of the biggest ways that you should deal with that.
Absolutely.
If you're playing with friends, everything's more fun when you're playing with friends. Like, it's just,
and
like,
I just get like infinitely better at the game when I'm like talking with someone about the game instead of like also watching The Mandalorian. Like, you know.
Yeah, I think that playing with friends is absolutely the best way to deal with ladder anxiety.
Yeah,
without a doubt. Like, and even if it's not you and a friend both like in the same room or whatever, or if it's you and a friend just playing games completely separately, but you're just in a Discord call talking.
Yeah, I just like jump on Alex. Me and Alex are roommates, and I'll just like jump on Alex's bed and like play Legends of Runeterra on my phone while he's playing Legends of Runeterra on his computer.
Yeah, and it's way less stressful.
Yeah.
Immediately, your mind just doesn't concentrate on whether you win or lose as much. It concentrates more on
what
playing the
you're doing.
game and it being a game, because you're in the presence of your friends and you just are going to have more fun.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And that's why like sometimes I feel a lot more like alienated and like less into the game of Legends of Runeterra than I did when I was like playing a lot of Magic, because like the backbone of me enjoying the game Magic the Gathering is the 2-hour car ride there with my friends and the food after and the 2-hour car ride back. Like, that is, you know, what I like. And I like Legends of Runeterra for many reasons, but that is an experience that is hard to replicate.
Hugh, you had a point if we want to wrap it up.
There's as someone who like absolutely gets crushed under ladder anxiety frequently, there's a lot of ways you can deal with it. A lot of people, like, something I see a lot of people doing is they set like a goal of wins for themselves, like a daily, like, I want to get to, like, if you're in silver, it doesn't matter what rank you are, like you want to
60 LP today,
yeah,
you know,
or something like that. I highly recommend not setting a goal of I need to win 10 games or I need to win 5 games. Just play games. Just set a goal for, I'm going to play 20 games today. If you lose all 20, that sucks, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Because you're going to win. You're
going to play
for
2 hours today, like stuff like that.
You're going to win eventually. Like, if you just solely focus on how you play, what you're playing, what you did wrong, what you did right, thinking about all your things you're doing, just playing games, you will eventually climb. You'll start winning more.
Absolutely.
Just
this
play
is the way.
Games. Don't worry about winning X games a day, because just by playing, you'll eventually start winning that. You'll start hitting that goal. Just make a goal for like games played. It's okay to lose. You're going to lose a lot. We lose all the time.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
You everyone loses. Like, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And like, I think the absolute hardest part of fixing your mental state or improving it at all is just being willing to acknowledge that you are tilted. So many people refuse to admit that they are upset, that they are tilted. I was this way for a long time. I was like, I'm rock solid, and like this would be like when I'm playing Overwatch, I'm like
2 years,
like I'm totally fine.
Crushed.
That guy, that like tracer flaming me on the enemy team, totally didn't affect me at all. I'm eating this ice cream for a solely separate reason.
The second bottle of wine was gonna happen always anyway.
Exactly.
You know?
Like, that was completely unrelated. Like, just be fully willing to recognize that you are a human being, that you get upset, and just know that you will get upset. Everyone does. Recognize when you are, and because when you're upset, you play worse.
You have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. I also want to like conclude with a statement that every single person, I would gonna say bar none, that you think is better than you at this game has lost more games than you. Like, that's just how it works. Like, you gotta play more, which means you're gonna lose more. Like, that it, I'm certain that people, that all of the Masters players have lost more games than you. They do not have 80% win rates. They have just played more. They might have a better overall win rate than you, but they've just played the games. They've put in the work. They've lost the game's lifetime. Like, everybody starts out as a scrub and, loses more than they win. And
absolutely.
Exactly.
All right. So I think we went over that pretty well. I'm reasonably happy with that. So let's move on to some more fun. We got some viewer questions here.
Oh yeah.
From the Discord. We're gonna start it off with Dr. Beeves. He asks, "What question do you want to see next?" I screwed that up. We're gonna try that again. We got a question from Dr. Beeves. "What champion do you want to see next for each region?" You want to just like go in a circle?
Well, why don't we just like let's one by one just name a region, and then we'll each go for a champion from that region. Then we'll move on to the next one.
Demacia.
Oh, why did you start with this one?
Okay,
so
I know mine if you want to.
We talked about this before. This is my favorite mid laner in League of Legends. It is Galio. It might be Hughes, but it is also the only Demacia champion I can think of off the top of my head right now. I think Galio would be really sick in this game.
I agree.
He would probably be a pretty chonky boy. Like, I imagine him. His stat line is like probably just going to be very similar to Leona's.
Maybe he's like going to be like an Aurelion. It would be like an Aurelion Soul.
Oh,
thing.
I was thinking
he's like
Aurelion
a huge,
Soul.
like, Stone Angel thing, right?
He's
in
like
lore.
he's like 500 feet tall.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh gosh.
He's massive. Yeah.
He's like the size of a castle. Yeah.
I'm thinking like a 7-mana 4/10 or something absurd.
Something
like,
stupid.
because I also the Galio is actually also my answer. I would be really interested to see how they design both.
Then why does the deer lady keep wanting me? I don't understand. How does this League of Legends game work?
Exactly. Yeah. And I just want to see how they implement his magic shield, his inherent magic resistance, lore-wise.
Yeah, I would like to see Silas.
I hope it's not just spell shield. God,
Yeah,
please don't just slap spell shield on him.
I would like to see Silas. I think Silas has a bunch of really cool design space that you could.
What is he gonna steal?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can he
It'd be
become
really
copies
cool.
of level up champions? Oh my god,
Yeah, it'd be really
that would
cool.
Be sick.
That's the one I want to see. All right, how about Bilgewater? Go ahead, Hugh.
Bilgewater, Alawi.
Excellent choice. That's my choice.
I really because
Yep.
tentacles, so much interesting design
Super
space
cool.
there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you can have them. I love Legends Runeterra. Like, the fact that you can just have some people create defined cards and it still looks clean in the card because you can just mouse over to what the card says, as opposed to like Magic where you have to like know
weird
what's on the
tokens
token
or whatever.
Yeah, like that just opens up so much design space to do really cool stuff, and I think
All right.
Alawi could be really neat.
I think we're all in agreement there. Let's go into Noxus.
Wait, no, I'm looking up the list of Bilgewater champions. 1 second.
Okay.
Oh no, we should move on.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. All right. So let's go on to Noxus. I'll start with Noxus. I think that Samira is the champion that I most want to see from Noxus. I think that it would be really cool to do a like style level up thing. I don't know how innately you would execute it, but I think it could be really cool. So that's mine. How about you?
I didn't know going into this until we discussed it before we started recording, but LeBlanc being Noxus.
Oh yeah, LeBlanc.
I really want to see LeBlanc.
LeBlanc is super
I have
cool.
a penchant for I really want to see every champion in this game that is weird. Like Tom Kench. Tom Kench is weird. Like, he does weird things. I want to see, like, Silas will be weird.
Yeah,
Aphelios
LeBlanc's mimic thing would be really cool.
Exactly. Aphelios is gonna be probably a little bizarre, like the way he functions in League of Legends translating to Runeterra. And I think it's gonna be great and very interesting. And that's just more of what I want to see.
No, will you have any Noxus ideas?
I was very on board with LeBlanc. LeBlanc is super cool. The
That's an awesome
copies
one.
might be really neat. And then both, I looked at Bilgewater champions. I didn't realize Graves was Bilgewater. I think Graves would be super cool.
Graves would be cool.
And also potentially Pike. I kind of like
would be
seeing
cool
how
for sure.
they choose to do, like,
Assassin.
yeah, like
type
usually
champions?
assassins or like
Yeah, the only real assassin we have in Legends of Runeterra
Katarina?
is like we have Katarina,
We have Yasuo.
Zed.
we have Zed. Zed was the one I was gonna say. I think that's it.
Yasuo.
Yes,
They
it's
all
not-
have quick
not-
attack.
not
I wouldn't say Yasuo is an assassin
That's fair.
yeah.
necessarily. I think those are the only like assassin champions we have.
That's
in
all I
Legends
can
of
think of,
Runeterra. Probably
certainly.
because like the gameplay for an assassin is like harder to emulate if they don't have like really strong like flavor as the champion.
Yeah.
Whatever, like it'd be hard. Oh, I guess we have Fizz too.
Yeah,
So
Fizz.
like that maybe counts.
It does count. He just doesn't play like an assassin in Legends of Runeterra.
I mean,
Yeah.
all of these cards that we just described are kind of like, I mean, except Katarina, but like both Zed and Fizz are kind of like Delver-y play and protect.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So that was Noxus. How about Piltover and Zon? Got any good ideas off the top of your
Why do you
head?
keep hitting me this?
Okay, I want Blitzcrank. I'll start.
Oh my
Blitzcrank.
gosh, Blitzcrank is
Easy
sick.
Blitzcrank.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
know. I don't know what he would do, but his flavor is just so obvious.
Yeah.
Like you make rocket grab, you slap down Blitzcrank, and he just starts rocket grabbing shit. Like I don't know what it does. I don't really care, but it sounds sweet.
Yeah, all right.
yeah. I like that answer. I want Camille.
Oh,
my
Camille
gosh.
would be cool. Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
answer. See, this is why you guys need to go first.
Yeah,
So I can
yeah,
just be
yeah.
like, same. Good,
Okay.
good job, everyone.
Sick. How about Targon? Targon.
Ooh, I know for this one.
Yeah, hit it.
Pantheon. I love this champion.
Pantheon's
Pantheon's
sweet.
sick. They didn't believe me when we were talking pre-episode that this champion was from Targon, and I would like to point everyone's attention to the celestial invoke card, the Warrior, who is literally just looks
you can just add
exactly
us.
like who looks exactly like Pantheon. That is his flavor. He is like named after and has powers from one of the constellations on Mount Targon,
Yeah.
and I think it will be super sick.
Q.
I don't. We talked about Pantheon being Targon, and then we just like stopped talking about Targon. I'm struggling to think of other champions
that are from
from
Targon, yeah.
that are from that region. I just like can't think of any.
Next.
Honestly,
All right. So then we've got Ionia. I think Ionia is the one where I
Very
want to
deep.
see the most champions from. Like, I would really like to see Irelia. I would like to see like Akali.
Jin
I
is
would
an outlaw
really like
from
to see Jin.
Ionia.
I think there's a million Ionia champions that I want to see. I think Ionia is the coolest region in League lore. Just like it's
totally reasonable.
Yeah, I just think it's the coolest. So I just
Master Yi?
kind of like all the Master Yi would be cool. Like
no.
Master Yi is a hard no, so I think it would
Pass.
be cool. Is that all the regions? Freljord.
No,
Freljord.
we've. Oh, I guess we're not including regions that aren't in the game yet.
Also Shadow
Yeah.
Isles.
Oh, Freljord and Shadow Isles. So Freljord, I want to see Ornn. Easy.
Ornn, yeah.
Easy Ornn.
And then the other
Volley
god
Bear
is
is-
Volibear,
yeah.
which is really cool.
I think Ornn would be so cool with his
Olaf
like
is-
item level up mechanics
I
type
agree.
stuff.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, Ornn
I
would
think
be
you
sick.
could like upgrade cards in your hand, and it would be so cool.
Olaf is another one, right?
Yeah, Olaf
From-
is
probably from Freljord.
I think he's from Freljord.
he's a little Viking.
I mean, his
I'm
name is
pretty-
Olaf.
Wait, where's Bard from? I want to see what Bard does.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
Where
Bard,
is
wherever
Bard
Bard's from. Bard.
Yeah.
Maybe
Probably the
it's-
same place as
may-
Asol.
maybe
Targon,
it's
probably.
Ixtal? I don't know.
I don't know. It's probably Targon. if I
Targon
had to
kind of
guess,
makes sense.
But Targon usually does all this stuff like that.
All right, what about Shadow Isles?
Yeah, Shadow Isles.
Oh,
Everyone's looking at me.
spooky. What spooky boys we got? 1 second. Let me think.
Yeah, so my thought process for remembering what champions are from where in League is usually like, oh, like the Shadow Isles champions. Those are usually like all junglers. I'm like, oh, there's not Hecarim. Yeah. Oh crap. Nocturne. Oh, dang it. Maokai. Shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it just keeps going. We have Senna already. I guess.
Wait,
so couldn't be Senna.
Yeah.
We have Thresh. There's
Isn't League of Legends new plotline about the Ruined King?
Yeah,
And
the
wouldn't it be
Ruined
really cool
King.
to- he's
Yeah,
not a
that
champion
one.
yet,
No,
right?
he's not a champion
No.
yet, but
Like,
it'd be a
that would
sweet
be
card
sick.
in Legends of
Ooh,
Runeterra.
Karthus is one.
Oh, Karthus would be really cool.
Oh, yeah, his
Mordekaiser.
revive.
Mordekaiser and Yorick. You play all these champions, Hugh. Get it together.
It's true.
All
I
right,
don't
all
know.
right. I think that's all of them, right? I think
That's all the regions. We should actually talk about Shurima though, since it's gonna be the next one.
We actually have quite a few Shurima questions. So,
Oh, okay.
we're gonna get there.
So
All
what
right.
are those?
So yeah, I guess let's skip to a next question here. This comes from Terrablitz in our Discord, and they ask champion wish list for Shurima.
All right.
Easy enough. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna, I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and I'm gonna throw off the 9 champions that are in League of Legends or in Shurima.
Yeah,
And then maybe we can talk about which ones we want. So
Definitely.
there's Azir. Makes sense. little sand warriors. Zareth, Nasus, it's the desert region. Like the Nasus is from it. The guy is like literally just straight out of Egyptian mythology.
Yep.
Renekton, Sivir, Skarner, Amumu, Rammus, and Talia. Have they confirmed that they're doing 2 more regions and they're Shurima and Ixtal? Is that what it's called?
I'm not sure. There's also the Void, which like
the
maybe
Void
will
exists.
exist at some point.
But I'm sure all of those.
I think that they've confirmed that they're doing only 2 more regions, and I think it might be likely that a lot of other champions get released in like expansions like the Void, which is like it would be flavored like the Void Invasion, but wouldn't be like a new region. If that makes sense, because like Skarner is he a Void thing? I thought he was a.
He's just a.
I'm not going to pretend to know. Skarner
I don't know.
Yeah,
I actually know nothing about Skarner.
Yeah, I don't really know much.
And then I keep trying to play him, and it just doesn't work.
He's just a scorpion.
Yeah, I think he's just like a scorpion. So, all right. So Azir is the immediate one that stands out to me. It's like this. This obviously is the most Shurima champion in the game. He's the Emperor of Shurima. He makes sand soldiers. Like, this one's just a slam dunk. If Azir isn't in the Shurima expansion, then I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
What's
so I think
his voice line? Is it
okay? Yeah, I think that
I really want Rammus. Okay.
Yeah, I think that Azir's a slam dunk. I'm excited for that. I would like to see Nasus and Renekton. I think
because they're brothers.
Yeah, and then I think that Xerath would be a really cool champion card in Legends of Runeterra. Probably there's a lot of
bombardment, baby.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that Xerath could do. Those are the ones I'm most excited for. I could kind of throw a dart at the rest of them. I'm less excited for the rest of them, but those are the 4 that I want to see.
I do love Amumu. He's really funny to me. He's like my go-to example of how League of Legends lore is like, I'm a warrior with a sword and I'm a ninja, and it's just like this guy's just a mummy that's sad.
That cries.
Sad.
Yeah. And I actually didn't play Amumu for a while because I was like, that's stupid. I don't want to play a dumb, sad mummy. And then I played him once, and I was like, this champion is the love of my life. Like, oh my god, he's so much fun.
You just resonate with a sad shell of a human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's about it for that question.
Yeah, he was probably in agreement there.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think Azir would be the most interesting, personally.
All right. This comes from Twilight. Thoughts on the prospect of champion expansions with Aphelios release in parentheses here. How many cards would you expect in each release?
I'm expecting a pretty small bundle of like 4 to 5 support cards.
I agree. I feel very strongly that I love these champion releases. So I'm gonna start with that. I think they're sick. Like the fact that you just get one new toy like a month or whatever. Like that's so cool. It means that, the game is going to feel fresh way longer, even just one card, because if you spend 1 week, like a week, that's not that long to spend experimenting with a new champion, trying to find the new cool build or whatever. And even if everything ends up bad, right? Like you still spent a week doing all these cool new things. That's like, if they're planning on releasing a new full set, like 3 or 4 times a year, you spend a week playing with this champion, there's new balance patches, right? Like the game is going to just stay fresh longer. There's going to be more content. People from League are going to be more likely to come into Legends of Runeterra and have their favorite champion be in the game.
Especially with a champion like Aphelios.
I'm just a really big fan. Like I love the idea of just releasing independent champions occasionally and like a little support package. And I'd expect 4 or 5 cards to accompany them. That's a pretty usual
Certainly
package.
no more than 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what? They need a champ spell. Always.
Yeah.
So they're always going to come with a champ
It has
spell.
to be at least 2.
There's probably
I say at least 2 minions.
at least 2 followers, yeah.
And then usually like just a unique
And
spell
then,
or
like,
something.
I mean, it's those packages that we talk about. Like
Yeah.
Riven, the thing that made a blade, the 2 different followers that made blades, Arl the Tracker, and like
I don't know, maybe
Hunt the Weak or whatever. So like that's
Survival skills.
and survival.
survival skills.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, that card exists.
people are playing it.
Yeah, it's
But
pretty
seven-
good.
It's
like,
seeing
yeah,
more
so
play
like
than
6,
most
7
of the
cards.
rest of those cards, actually.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to, this is from Lee McLeod. How do you think champion skins could be implemented, and what champions do you want? So we went over that a little bit. So champion skins. Do you think that champion skins could and should be implemented in Legends of Runeterra?
Oh yeah.
I think they absolutely will be. Makes so much money.
Yeah, me too. Right?
I would love
yeah.
like a pool party. Like I bet they come out in like bundles, and they're like, here's the like how the KDI cards were, and there's
Yeah.
like, here's the pool party thing, and like there's probably reward track,
Yeah,
and then it's
that
like
makes
I got
sense.
pool party Fiora, and I get to.
Get to
How
hit
much
people with
more
my pool noodle.
humiliating is losing to a Fiora that is killing you with a pool noodle?
Could you
Kill all
imagine
your
the
followers
sound
with a Fiora.
effect?
Oh my
It'd
god,
be brutal.
Thwap.
I mean, the sound effect in League of Legends is hilarious.
Yeah, what is it?
exactly.
Is it just like
It sounds like you got hit with a wet pool
It
noodle, and then you
really-
get chunked for like half your HP. It's like, this is not reasonable. Like that is one whack ass pool noodle, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I agree that it's going to be similar to the KDA thing. It's going to be probably an event.
I'm honestly pretty surprised that the KDA thing wasn't the advent of champion skins. Like when people announced
Yeah, me
a
too.
KDA event, I was like, oh, we're getting skins now.
I would like to see, especially too, if they like release like skins for champions. Like hopefully they have different level up animations, and
that is
would
a
be,
lot of coding, to be fair.
not as much as a skin in League of Legends, you know. And yes, it's not no coding, but
Yeah.
this is Riot Games. You know, if they release a champion
they do
skin
They
and
have the resources.
and it only changes my border or whatever, I'm gonna be pretty disappointed. I think if they come out with skins, they need to like have a different art, have a different champion level up animation. And
Oh, yeah. On that note, I want better prismatics. I think the prismatics just don't look good.
yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that from a few people.
The border's too thick.
I'm
and
just
the
neutral
foil-
on foils in like every game, so like I'm kind of whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
I'm
yeah,
saying me and
worth
Alex are
noting.
like the like playing with blank cardboards with no art.
Oh yeah, oh
Players.
yeah. We
Yeah,
have
we've-
some really degen.
we've all done it,
testing.
but, like-
Testing.
Which is funny because like because we also work on game design sometimes. When we work on game design, we're like, I don't know if I can really feel this card until there's art on it. But like when I'm playing Magic, I was like, these cards don't have any pictures.
We
on them.
literally made playtest decks that were peak efficiency in that it had like 1 through 7 on it,
Oh god.
and depending on what
peak degen testing. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And like depending on what number you picked,
Yeah.
it was a different deck.
Yeah.
So each individual card could
yeah.
be 7 cards.
Yeah, it's like
and
a 60
together-
card deck, and
yeah.
like it has 1 through 7 on it, and you're like, I'm playing deck 1, and so this card is a land, this card is a lightning bolt, and this card is a grizzly bear.
So your 60
Yeah.
cards could be 7 decks all at once. We didn't have to make 7 decks.
Yeah.
It was.
They were all blank. other
Max
than
degen,
text.
yeah.
It was, and they were all just written on the back of like it was in like Sharpie. It was barely legible. Like
Yeah.
it was
good
it's-
times.
it's good.
times.
All right. This question from Ted A. I think we've pretty solidly covered this whole question. How's Go Hard faring after the nerf to packet bags? What do you see? Or okay, so at least this part. Who do you see being the new meta overlord, if any? Any thoughts on the best deck?
Zoe,
I think it's
Zoe
Scouts.
for sure. Oh, I'm in Zoe.
I think that Zoe Lee is the best,
I
like
guess-
the air quotes best deck, but I think that Scouts will be the most popular deck.
Yeah, it preys on the best deck.
It preys on the best deck. It's
Level
It's
2.
an aggro deck.
It's resilient.
It's fast.
Yep.
It's just good, and it does stupid things.
I
Like when
love-
you play Grand Plaza into Island Navigator, it does not feel fair.
I really
It's not
So
fair. It's absolutely
it's
not fair.
fair.
One
It's
of the
just
coolest
not fair,
things
right?
about Legends of Runeterra is like, I don't know. Last month when we were talking about the seasonal tournament, we were like, okay, Scouts is the worst of these aggro decks, but they're all pretty reasonable. And we should play Pirates and we should play Mist Wraiths, and one card later, it's
It's now the best one.
Yeah,
the best
exactly.
of the aggro decks. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So I think that's my prediction is that it will probably be Scouts, even though I think that the Zoe Lee deck is technically air quotes better.
Do we think
Right.
a Grand Plaza nerf is like maybe incoming?
I
I think they actually said something about it.
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure.
I think in one of the patches they were like,
If anything, I think it's going to be a +1/+0 over +1/+1. I guess it's probably
Yeah,
makes the most sense.
I agree.
I'm thinking back, I now believe that I remember, and someone in the Discord can call me out for being an absolute,
A loony.
crock
Yeah.
of shit. But I believe that they said something along the lines of, we're not nerfing any new cards that came out because how far back they have to load up balance patches.
Yeah.
So Pack Your Bags had been loaded up for a balance patch quite a while before.
Oh, that makes
this
sense.
last Tuesday.
Interesting.
And so they were not ever going to release a Grand Plaza change this soon. And so I would not be surprised if, like, when Aphelios comes out, or whatever that balance patch is, we also see a slight Grand Plaza nerf.
Interesting. Well, I guess maybe we'll see. All right. This one comes from Cloud Aisha. They ask, do you believe that Hush is a problem and should be nerfed? If so, how would you nerf it?
This was my favorite question that I saw.
Congratulations, you won the prize.
Because for no particular reason, I just wanted to talk about this in general.
This is actually my favorite
independently.
question, too. Yeah.
It's not my favorite question.
Wow.
I just don't think we should be a monolith,
No,
Okay,
Pick it up
sure, that's fair.
self-defense opinions.
Anyway,
No, it's fun.
It's completely separately. I just brought up. We talked a little bit about, is Targon too good? And then it devolved into, wait a second, is Hush too good?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just going to out and say it. I think Hush should be 3 mana.
yeah, same. That's pretty much where I land on it. I think it should just
And
go back to
maybe-
being old Hush.
Wouldn't it be
Minus
cool
the
if it like
copying itself.
when you played it, it created copies of itself in your hand, and then you could use it on multiple units? My actual hot take, I guess, hearing you two talk, is that if my opponent is going to cast what's it called, Ranger something?
Ranger's Resolve?
No, the 4 mana 3/1.
Not giving us a lot to work with.
Oh,
Grizzle
Grizzle
Ranger?
Ranger.
If my opponent is going to cast a Grizzle Ranger that has Challenger and dies into another unit with Challenger, and like it has Scout and Challenger and dies into another unit with Challenger, I want Hush to be 2 mana. God damn it! Like until I'm not gonna Hush that card, which is the most satisfying thing of all time, by the way. I would like Hush to stay at 2 mana. Especially it's just. Okay, it's really, really good.
It's
I was
really,
like,
really
so good
good.
against Lee Sin.
So here's
It's
my
2
argument.
mana. It's so easy to hold up.
Here's my argument. I think that Hush is the hardest card to play around in the entire game.
Agreed.
Straight up. I think that
Burst Speed Spell Shield is like the only thing that like,
yeah,
does
I
it.
think that it is the hardest card to mechanically play around, in that like if your opponent has it, how do you beat it is quite difficult. Like the literal mechanics of playing around the card are very hard. Couple that with the fact that because the mechanics of playing around it are so hard, it's even harder to know when you're supposed to play around it, because it's a big cost a lot of the time. So because it's hard to play around, which innately makes it really hard to play around, if like
Yeah.
the English kind of fails us a little bit here, but like it's really hard to play around because it's hard to play around, which means that I think it should just be 3 mana to make it a little bit easier on us all. Basically,
That's fair.
I think it's a little too good. I think it's really, really hard to play around. I just would like it to cost 1.
And similar to the pack your bags problem, it's really easy to hold up at 2 mana. Going from 2 to 3 is such a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really, really easy to just win any combat with Hush into Pale Cascade, and if you hold that up and you have the spell mana or whatever, like you're basically only wasting 1 mana anytime you hold that up. So it doesn't feel like that much of a cost.
I do think its existence is very important.
Oh, I agree.
Because,
Agreed.
like, otherwise the, like, Voltron put, like, for example, this Zoe Fiora deck that just, like, puts a bunch of standalones and chain vests and
Yep.
Blessing of Targons all on, and Spell Shields all on one unit, would be very unfun to play against if Hush didn't exist. Not even the fear that Hush could be in the specific deck, but just as a general safety valve on those decks being really good.
I agree. Yeah, definitely don't delete the card. Don't gut it. Like I want it to exist, and I think that 3 mana will be perfect.
Yeah,
I think that I'll be done complaining about it if it's 3 mana. It's just, I think, just a little too good right now.
using all your spell mana is very fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
To hold
All
that
right.
up.
And our last question is from Dragon. He asks, what deck do you think is underrated in the current meta? Fire away, Hugh. You get...
you saw my little smirk. Anivia control.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask if it started with a D and ended with an Eep.
No, I don't think Deep is actually very good right now, just for the record. It's like everything, so many things can go wide on it. Like, it doesn't go over the top as well as other things. Like, there's a whole bunch of reasons
What
why.
makes you like Anivia control?
It just eats eats creature decks so easily, so frequently, and you cannot beat its late game.
It's true.
There's no, like, I have obliterated every Acel I've come across. It's not been close. Like, they're just like, they keep obliterating my Anivias. As long as you don't
Doesn't
get your
matter.
third Anivia exiled or obliterated or
You
whatever.
just need one to have died.
Yeah,
Even for
if
Yeah.
one Anivia dies, they cannot win the game. As long as you play vaguely okay with the deck.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Like you have
And
the
it's-
Harrowing and the Rekindler.
It's so safe against aggro because it has, I'm pretty sure, literally every card that heals in the regions minus the
Does
Nightfall
it play
Drain
Catalyst
one.
of Aeons?
I tried putting 2 catalysts in. I have since taken them out. It's a little too greedy.
It heals though, you.
It does
It
heal.
heals. It
Are you
heals.
playing Revitalizing Roar? Get your fake news out of here.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that card. Anyway, it plays all the healing removal spells.
It plays the good cards.
Exactly. And so you have so much healing in the deck, you just like can't really die to aggro unless they like just super nut draw, or you brick super hard. I had 2 games in a row where I literally didn't see a single copy of Anivia in 2/3 of both. Like I went through 2/3 of my deck both games.
Aren't you playing Entreat?
I'm playing 3 Entreat.
Oh,
I didn't see a single copy of
Oh, that
Entreat or
sucks.
Anivia.
Yeah, that
So,
is unfortunate. Yeah, I don't
Anyway.
recommend that.
I think it's really good. That's its biggest downside on ladder is that the games take a really long time,
Yeah.
and so it's hard. You can't grind a lot of games.
All right, Noble.
I have 3. I think you're going to talk about one of them, so I won't. I think Fiora Shen has been like sleeper very good for a while. I think it has a very decent matchup against Zoe Lee.
I agree.
It can suck sometimes because it's pretty hard for you to kill Lee Sin, but it's also you can
You can get it.
there's
yeah.
some play. There's some
Deck's
play
really
for sure.
good against Deck's really good against scouts, which is
Yeah,
big
very
upside.
good against scouts. And then just, good against these random board-based creature decks. Deck's just good.
Yeah.
One thing I will admit, I was resistant to this at first, but basically everyone has agreed that don't play Fleet Feather Tracker. Maybe that's different now that Go Hard is worse, but Fleet Feather Tracker is just not that good. It's very nice when you're specifically on the play and have it into Brightsteel Protector, but then again, that 1/2 is also great there. It just frees up more play to play more interaction. I've kind of seen a consensus being on a pretty significant changes to the list. They're playing 2 Relentless Pursuit now. They're playing 2 Riposte, 1
Spirits Refuge.
Spirits Refuge.
I've
So-
seen lists that are playing 2 Spirits Refuge and 1 Riposte. Honestly, I like that more too,
Oh, interesting.
to be honest. So
I feel so vindicated having finally heard you say that.
Yeah, Fleet
But the
Feather
Fleet
Tracker's
Feather
bad.
Fleet Feather
I've been
Tracker
saying
sucks,
it since
man.
the literal second
Yeah,
game I played. I'm like,
same.
guys, this
was my
card's bad.
That was
Yeah.
my first take of the deck too. It was like Noble came into my. So Noble played this game before I did. Quick story. He's like, the 2 best cards in the game are Omen Hawk and Fleet Feather Tracker. And I came in, I played Expedition, and there was a pack with Omen Hawk and Fleet Feather Tracker, right next to a pack with Mystic Shot and it was Mystic Shot and another
Static Shock or something.
medium card. It was Mystic Shot and Puff Cap Peddler, and I just snapped it off. And he was like, "You just passed the 2 best cards of the game." I was like, "I don't know, man. I'm not."
I
sold.
would like to say that I think it is a reasonable assertion that Omen Hawk was one of, if not the best cards in the game in beta.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Card is really, really good when it's
Oh
in
yeah,
puffing
I don't
already
necessarily
overcosted
disagree with
elusives.
that.
Yeah.
But
So anyway,
moving on.
So all right, so underrated. I think that I'm really quick. I'm going to touch on. I think that Draven Swain is very underrated because people are still playing Draven Ezreal, and that is way worse. Draven
That's
Swain.
the one that I wanted to talk about, but trusted Alex to hit for me.
Draven Swain is way better than Draven Ezreal. Just take your Ezreals out, put in Swain and Leviathans. The Leviathan actually gives you a package that can beat the Lee Sin decks, because if you just stunlock the Lee Sin deck, they basically can't do anything about it. They have no answers really, unless they happen to have an Equinox from earlier in the game.
And it's round start, so Hush doesn't
Yeah,
work.
yeah, you can't hush it basically. They basically have no answers if their Lee Sin is in play and gets stunlocked by Swain. So that's really good. That actually gives you a plan for that matchup, which is a really big problem in the Ezreal decks. Swain just is, I mean, that's really the most of it, but Swain's also just good. It just blocks aggro better. The Mystic Shots are you don't really have the mana to just cast Mystic Shots with Ezreal in the deck very often. So
Your Tri-Beam and Probulators get way worse.
The Tri-Beam and Probulators do get a little bit worse, but the Tri-Beam
Not
and
that much
Probulators
worse.
are
You're
still
running
good.
Death's Hand now.
That's fair.
yeah.
I just played multiple games with the deck, and it's this Tri-Beam Probullator card isn't.
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe there need to be less than 3 in that deck, to be fair. I'm not certain that the actual list that I've been playing is 100% optimal. That deck I think is quite good. I think that the Zoe Fiora deck is also quite good and underrated. I know a friend of ours, we've been tampering with it too, has been really tampering with it, and he thinks he's come up with a really, really good Zoe Fiora deck list, and I'm sure it'll be in our Discord if you want to ask him about it, because I'm not going to claim to be an expert. He's put 50 or something games into the
a lot
deck.
more than that, I think. He's put in a lot of games.
A lot of games with the deck, and really tried to fine tune all of its inconsistency problems, and he's claiming to have a pretty ridiculous win rate. So
who?
Nico.
Okay.
So I think that if you're interested,
that guy
yeah,
also.
if you're
That's really
interested
good in this
in, yeah, he's really good. So if you're interested in that deck, I think that you should join our Discord and talk to him about it because he's the expert on it, as far as I'm aware.
I also just wanted to shout out, like, our Discord has gotten a lot of interaction recently, which has been super awesome. Thank all of you.
Love
and if
it.
you're not there, we talk about deck lists all the time. This is where we get our listener questions. We,
Yeah, it's really interactive.
we also like
yeah.
something that people haven't taken us up on yet, but we do just stream in the voice chat like quite often. Like when we're talking about playing with friends, like we're just in the Champ Select
Yeah,
Discord.
if you ever
just
are having
playing.
ladder anxiety and you notice us streaming in Discord or just hanging out in the thing, feel free to join.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get better about messaging when we're in there, I think.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
we'll,
that would
we'll
help.
try to we'll try to make
Feel
a point
free to
of it.
just join us. Like we're not
Absolutely.
We have no
Please do.
problem with you just hanging out. Even if you don't even have to talk. Like
Yeah,
if you just want to sit
hang
in there
out,
and listen to
yeah,
what we
totally.
say.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
fine.
Absolutely. Open invitation to everyone. So please join us. All right. I think that's all for this episode. This is a pretty long one. We had
I
a
think
lot
this is
to
our
go
longest
over.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot to go over. It's a pretty long one, even though it felt like it moved kind of fast because we just had so much to talk about. But I want to thank everyone for sticking through it for this whole thing. Like this is a long episode, so
It's
we
also
really
the first time
appreciate-
Alex is back, so we got to really go hard.
yeah, we really appreciate you guys sticking through the whole episode with us. As always, you can join our Discord. The link will be in the description of whatever platform you're listening to this on. So you can follow us on Twitter. Once again, link will be in the description of whatever platform you're listening to this on. And feel free to hang out and talk to us. The Discord's going really great. We're really happy with how the Discord's going. So thank you to everyone who's been active in our Discord. And I think with that, we will see you all in the next episode of Champ Select.
Yep.